Sometimes I wonder if my father ever saw me as his daughter, or just an investment, a safety net he could cash in when things got tough. Would I still have helped him if I'd known how it would all end? Maybe, maybe not. But I do know this. I'll never let anyone use me like that again. Growing up, my father, Henry Callaway, was larger than life, a self-made businessman and the proud owner of Callaway and Sons Manufacturing. The company had been in our family for 3 generations. It was his pride and joy, more than his wife, more than his children, more than me. I learned early that love in our family wasn't unconditional. My father believed in results. You earn your place, or you don't have one. My older brother Damien was the golden child, groomed since birth to take over the company. I was the backup plan, the one expected to fend for herself because, in my father's world, business wasn't a place for emotions. I was 10 when I first understood. We were at dinner. Dad was going on about how Damien would one day lead the company. Eager to be part of the conversation, I asked, "What about me, Dad?" He chuckled, ruffling my hair. "Sweetheart, you'll do just fine, on your own. Women don't need to run companies. They marry into them." Everyone laughed. I did too, pretending the words didn't sting. By the time I was old enough to prove him wrong, I no longer wanted anything to do with Callaway and Sons. I went to college on a scholarship, built a career in financial consulting. While my father barely acknowledged my success, Damien had it worse. He tried to live up to expectations, but he was reckless with money and worse with leadership. Callaway and Sons had been bleeding for years. My father refused to see it, until it was too late. The call came on a cold December morning. "Daisy, we need to talk," he said. "No hello. No how are you. Just business. Come by the house tonight." When I arrived, he was already at the dining table, a folder of documents spread before him. My mother sat quietly beside him, her face drawn with worry. Damien nursed a glass of whiskey, his knee bouncing. My father didn't waste words. "The company's in trouble." I said nothing. I'd suspected as much. "I need your help," he continued. "You work in finance. You know how to fix things." I skimmed the papers: debt, declining revenue, mismanaged funds. It was worse than I thought. "How much do you need?" I asked. He looked me in the eye. $2 million. I almost laughed. $2 million? Dad, I don't have that kind of money. His jaw tightened. "But you have connections, investors, ways to restructure debt." So that was it. He didn't want my advice. He wanted me to risk my career, my reputation, my resources, all for a company that was never mine. For a father who had never truly supported me, I should have walked away. But some part of me, still aching for his approval, wanted to prove I was more than capable. I wanted to show him I wasn't just fine on my own. I was indispensable. So I said yes. For 6 months, I gave everything. I brought in experts, negotiated with creditors, convinced investors to give Callaway and Sons another chance. I poured in my time, my expertise, even my personal capital, and slowly, it worked. By year's end, the company was no longer on the brink of collapse. Then, 2 weeks before Christmas, I got an email from my father's lawyer, a revised will. I read it twice. He'd left everything to Damien. Everything. Not a mention of me. I stormed into his study that evening, threw the will on his desk. "Explain this." He barely looked up. "It's how it should be. I saved your company. I put my name on the line. That doesn't matter to you?" He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Daisy, you'll be fine. You always are. Damien, he needs this. He's the future of this company." I exhaled, cold and calm. "Then let Damien figure it out from now on." And I walked out. I cut the money, cut the ties, stopped trying to earn something he never intended to give. A week later, my phone rang. I answered, expecting some shred of remorse. Instead, I got a bark. "Where the hell is my money?" No hello, no thank you, no regret. I smiled bitterly, gripping the phone tight. "No hello? I'm fine. Thanks for asking." Silence, then a scoff. "Don't be dramatic, Daisy. You have an obligation to this family." And that's when something inside me snapped. 1. Emotional arc. Daisy's transformation is crystal clear. Her shift from hope to disillusionment to resolve is tangible, and you feel every beat of it. 2. Dialogue. The dialogue is sharp and layered. Her father's entitlement, her mother's quiet manipulation. It all rings painfully true. There's an undercurrent of generational expectation and trauma that's subtle but cutting. 3. Realism. The way the family dynamics are portrayed, especially the guilt cycle, is so grounded in reality. Many readers will relate deeply. Opportunities for tightening. 1. Paragraphing, pacing. The block format works for streaming. Thoughts, but adding some paragraph breaks, especially around moments of emotional or narrative pivot, would increase readability and impact. Example. "Daisy," she said, her voice soft, almost hesitant. I sighed. "Hi, Mom. Are you busy? I just left the office." There was a pause, like she was gathering courage. "Can we talk?" 2. Repetition. You have a few moments where ideas double back a little. That can work stylistically, especially to mirror obsessive thoughts, but trimming a few repeated sentiments might make the powerful lines hit harder. For example, "If my father was the storm, she was the still water beneath it." You could let that stand on its own without needing to add more clarification around her behavior. It's evocative enough to carry weight. 3. Names. There's a Damon in some places and Damien in others. Consistency will help keep the focus on Daisy's story. 15:18. He got away with it again. Silence. I pressed on. I refused to be part of it anymore. I saved that company. I saved him. And how did he repay me? By cutting me out. Like I never mattered. 15:25. He made his choice. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Daisy, it's not that simple." "It is," I snapped. "For once, it really is." I climbed into my car, fingers white-knuckled on the steering. Wheel. "You want to save him, Mom?" "Let Damon do it. That's who he chose. That's who he bet everything on." She exhaled slowly. I could hear the truth settling in her chest, the way understanding does. But understanding isn't the same as acceptance. "I just don't want to lose my daughter over this," she said softly. A lump rose in my throat. "You won't," I promised. "But I won't lose myself either." I ended the call before she could say anything else. The next morning, I woke to a headline. "Callaway and Sons. Third-generation empire at risk amidst family fallout." I blinked. Read it again. What the hell? Scrolling through the article, my stomach turned. Anonymous sources, whispers of internal conflict, of a key family member abandoning the company during a critical moment. No names, but it was obvious who they meant. My phone buzzed nonstop. From a college friend. "D, is this article about you? From a former client. Hope you're okay. Let me know if you need to get ahead of this." From my assistant. "Do you want me to start screening calls?" Still staring at the screen, another message popped up. "Damon, you should have just helped." Rage bloomed, hot and sharp. This wasn't a leak. This was war. A calculated public smear campaign to force me back in line. My father's last move. And that's when I realized he'd already lost. Because I wasn't scared anymore. Not the little girl at the dinner table, not the fixer, not the forgotten daughter in the shadows. I was done. I typed a single message. Me. "Tell Dad if he wants to drag me through the mud, he better be ready. For what comes next. Send." The next morning, I sat in my office, sipping coffee, reviewing a client's financials. Calm, unsettlingly calm. A knock. My assistant poked her head in. "Daisy, your mother's here." I froze. My mother never came unannounced. I set my coffee down, inhaled. "Send her in." She entered slowly, like her bones ached. Dark circles under her eyes, hands clutched around her purse like a lifeline. "Mom," I said, voice steady, "this is a surprise." She didn't sit, just stood there, wringing her hands. "Daisy," she began, then faltered. "Your father's furious." I nearly laughed. "When is he not?" "This time is different," she insisted. "He's talking to lawyers. He wants to sue you." I blinked. "Sue me? For what?" I asked, incredulous. "Not giving him money? Is that illegal now?" She swallowed. "He thinks you misled the investors. That walking away sabotaged the company." I shook my head. "No. I saved that company. When I left, it was stable. If it's falling apart now, that's on Daman. That's on Dad." "I know," she whispered, tears rising. "I know, sweetheart." "Then why are you here?" I didn't say it out loud. I didn't need to. She wasn't here because she agreed with him. She was here because she was afraid of him. "Don't," she pleaded. "If you go through with this, it could ruin you. Even if you win, the damage to your reputation." "I don't care." I cut her off coldly, gesturing to the phone where the article about Callaway and Sons still glowed. He already tried to ruin me, dragged my name through the mud, and now that didn't work. He wants to play legal games? I leaned in. "I won't be bullied, Mom. Not by him. Not by anyone." She sat down hard, like her legs had finally given out. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. I sighed, rubbing my temples. My mother had always been passive, hiding behind my father, making excuses, keeping the peace. I wasn't her. I refused to be. "You have two choices, Mom," I said, gently. "You can keep defending him, keep shielding him from the consequences, keep letting him walk all over you." I paused, letting the words settle. "Or you can walk away, like I did." Tears welled in her eyes. "I don't know how," she whispered. And that was the difference between us. I had figured it out. I had broken free. She never would. "I love you, Mom," I said softly. "But I won't fix this for him." She looked at me, really looked at me, like she was seeing me for the first time. Then, without a word, she stood, wiped her tears, and walked out. The lawsuit never came. Just like I suspected, it had been an empty threat. But my father wasn't finished. A few days later, I got an alert from my bank. Fraud warning. "Miss Callaway," the rep said, "we've flagged multiple access attempts from an unknown device. We've locked everything down, but please review your security settings." I didn't need to guess. It was him. I wasn't angry, just tired. He had no control anymore, so he reached for whatever he could. I spent the next hour changing passwords, freezing accounts, locking down every financial connection I had. And then I sent a single text to Damien. "Me. Tell Dad if he touches my money again, I'll press charges." It took him 30 minutes to respond. Damien. "I didn't know he'd do that." I scoffed. Me. "You did, and you let him." He didn't reply. I didn't expect him to. Damien was never the mastermind. He was a pawn, always had been. A week later, my mom called again. This time she wasn't pleading. She was panicking. "Daisy," she gasped, "it's your father. He collapsed." The world paused. "They rushed him to the hospital. His heart." Her voice cracked. "They're not sure if he's going to make it." I swallowed hard. I should have felt something. Fear, maybe. Regret. But all I felt was nothing. because I knew what she was really asking. Come home. Fix it. Keep me updated, I said. Are you coming? She asked. I closed my eyes. No, Mom. When I hung up, I waited for the guilt, the sadness, the relief. But there was only silence. For years, my father had been the force that shaped every decision I made, looming, demanding, impossible to please. And now he was on the brink of death, and I couldn't summon a single tear. 3 days passed. Missed calls. Unfamiliar numbers. Damien's name lighting up my screen, saying nothing. On the 4th day, Mom. He's stable but weak. The doctors say it's a warning sign. Maybe this will be his wake-up call. I stared at the message. A wake-up call? She still believed he could change, that a man who spent his life manipulating people could be reformed by a hospital bed. Later that night, Mom. He's asking for you. Of course he was. Not because he was sorry, not because he had changed, but because he needed something. Me. No. After a long pause, the typing bubbles reappeared. Mom. I understand. Just think about it, Daisy. I wouldn't. A week later, it was in the news. Callaway and Sons was collapsing. For real this time. Investors pulling out. Employees laid off. Debts surfacing. The empire was crumbling. Damien had failed, and my father was too weak to fix it. I expected Damien to beg, to grovel. Instead, he sent a single, bitter message. Damien, you got what you wanted. I stared at it before replying. Me. No. I got what I deserved. And I meant it. The next morning, I woke up feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Peace, not triumph, not relief. Just peace. No fires to put out. No threats to dodge. No manipulative strings pulling at me. The company was gone. My father was recovering. Damien was left with the mess. And none of it was mine to carry anymore. A week later, my mother called again. I almost didn't answer. Mom, I said, flat. She hesitated. Your father's home. I said nothing. He's different, she added quickly. Quieter. He hasn't said much since he got back. Still, I said nothing. I think he wants to see you, she whispered. But he won't ask. And you want to know if I will? I said. Silence. Then softly. Would you? Would I walk back into that house? Sit across from the man who erased me from his legacy, who only ever saw me as a tool? Would I give him one last chance? I closed my eyes. No, Mom, I won't. A shaky breath. I thought you might say that. I swallowed. Are you going to stay? She didn't answer right away. I don't know how to leave, she finally admitted. I pressed my fingers to my temples. Then that's your choice, just like I made mine. She inhaled sharply, like she wanted to say more. But all she said was, I love you, Daisy. And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. I love you too, Mom. Then I hung up. That was the last time I ever spoke to her. A month later, I stood in front of my new home, small, quiet, mine. No ghosts, no scars, no history. As I sipped coffee on the porch, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Whoever it was, my mother, my father, Damien, some leftover piece of that life, they didn't belong in mine anymore. I blocked the number, set the phone down, smiled. I had won. Not through power, not through revenge, but through peace, through freedom. And no one could take that from me again.